Hello friends, for today's video I'm going to be doing a book haul. I haven't done a book haul in quite a while, primarily because over the last few years I've been really utilizing my local library, but also because I can't afford it because it's just expensive to buy books. So the library it is, but also libraries are amazing and I like to give them, you know, some love when I can. But regardless, I don't have the money to buy books all the time. But most of these books came secondhand. And one of the bookstores that I always love to shout out for anybody that's ever visiting Arizona, or if you want to connect your bookshop.org account to this bookstore, would be Changing Hands. I unfortunately didn't buy anything from Changing Hands this time around, but I still wanted to shout them out because they are amazing. But I also absolutely love Bookman's. Sadly, I don't believe you can connect your bookshop.org account to Bookman's, but if you are ever in Arizona, highly recommend going. They're all over the place. There's a bunch of locations. They're phenomenal. But anyway, I got some books through them and then also through the app Pango, which is essentially a used bookstore in app form. So with all that said, jumping into it, the first book would be maybe seeming kind of unusual for my typical reading tastes, but some of you are going to know immediately why I picked this one up, unless I have the wrong book. I don't think I do. And that would be Lonesome Dove. This is a Western. I got it from my used bookstore for $4. And I decided to pick this up because I think I will forever and always be chasing the high that is Joe Abercrombie's books. And I say I will forever and always be chasing it because I don't think I'm ever going to find anything quite like his level of snark and grimdark and bleak and funny. But I digress. Anyway, apparently Lonesome Dove is one of his inspirations. And I was looking on Reddit, I was like, what else do people recommend? Nothing. There's nothing like Abercrombie. The things people recommend, I'm like, I've read that and it's not like Abercrombie, but I also understand why it's hard to pin down recommendations. But anyway, people were like, Lonesome Dove, it's one of Abercrombie's recommendations, and also, it's amazing. And I was like, well, all right, I'll give it a try. So I don't know what to expect. I don't know when I'll get around to this, but it was $4. So I was like, all right, we'll get it. Next up would be a special edition that I got used, which would be The Spell Shop. So The Spell Shop has been one of my favorite cozy fantasy books of the year, and it's also just a new favorite cozy fantasy in general. I thought it was delightful and sweet and charming. If I have any reviews or any new fantasy releases or anything like that for the books that I talk about that I have read, I'll have them linked in case you want to hear more about them. Spell Shop is so cute. It has these illustrations on the inside cover, and then in the back it also has this illustration. And then the sleeve itself, if you take the sleeve off, you can change the cover if you would like to make it look a little bit more storybook. Also, the naked hardback itself is really charming and delightful, as is the book. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get it. And the person who was selling this was selling it for a reasonable price, because none of us like when people sell books secondhand and they upcharge. No one likes that. Don't do it. I mean, it's understandable if it's a little bit, especially if it's really rare. But I swear, sometimes, like I was looking the other day at, I recently reread City of Brass, and I was like, I do like the UK editions, but I know that the hardbacks are sold out. And I wasn't even looking for special editions. I was literally just looking for the hardcovers of the UK editions, and people will sell one book for hundreds of dollars, and I'm like, no. No, that's dumb. I'm not going to spend hundreds of dollars on that. Anyway, that's why it's still up, probably for sale, because nobody wants to spend that. Next up, though, Foul Days. This has been one of my favorite books of the year, similar to The Spell Shop. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I actually did buy this and the regular paperback from Pango, but I guess the seller never shipped it. And Pango has something where if the seller doesn't ship the book within a certain amount of time, they just automatically refund you, which I do appreciate, but also I was like, oh man. But anyway, it's the paperback. I can get that whenever. It's probably better that that happened with the paperback and not this edition, but I thought this book was so much fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Highly recommend. But this particular edition, I do think that the cover is fine. I don't dislike or absolutely love the cover, but it's all the extra stuff that went into this that I really like. So if you take the dust jacket off, I do really quite like the naked hardback. I think that this is really fitting of the story, and I just think that that design looks incredible. On the back, you have a slightly different design, but it's done in a similar way. And then similar to the spell shop, if you open it up, you have some additional artwork here. And then on the back, you have, once again, additional artwork. And just like with the spell shop, the dust jacket, if you open it up, it has art in it. And I think that this art is actually pretty fantastic. A lot of fun. Really enjoyed this book. So happy to have this edition. I probably will still get the paperback, mostly because the sequel, I don't know if Foul Days, if its sequel will also get a special edition, but it will get a regular edition. And the regular edition, I quite like the sequel's cover of the regular paperback, so I was like, meh, yeah, let's go for it. To clarify, once again, I did go for it. I did buy the first one in paperback so that when the second one comes out, I can buy it in paperback and they'll match. And then I didn't get it. So I probably will get it at some point. I just don't have it right now. Moving on though. Next up we have Race the Sands. This has been, once again, another favorite of the year. I enjoy Sarah Beth Durst's writing. I'm stupid and realized I already mentioned that when I talked about the spell shop. It's the same author. You wouldn't know it because she's great at writing from one story to the next, very different stories, different characters, and I definitely think her settings are always really well realized, but very different from one story to the next, and that's very true between the spell shop and Race the Sands. Race the Sands was a lot of fun. When I first started, I thought, I don't know if I'm going to love this, and the more I read, the more I really enjoyed it, and by the end, I was like, that was great, especially for fantasy standalones. I know people can be understandably kind of picky about fantasy standalones because you're having to get introduced to this whole new world, these characters, you have to flesh out a magic system if there is one. It's a lot to take in, and then once you finally get all of that information firmly in your brain, then all of a sudden, if it's a standalone, you're like, oh, I guess it's over now. And obviously most of us pick up on stuff faster than by the end of the book, but I think a lot of you know what I mean. By the time we really feel like we understand the world and we're really invested within it, that's usually when we leave off for a sequel and we love the characters and we can't wait to be with them more. So standalones, it can be tricky to capture all of the world building and have a compelling story and have characters you care about and one book be the right amount. And I think she did that really well in Race the Sands. Really liked that one. So I got a copy of that. Also, the Fireborn Blade. These both came from Pango as well, so they were also secondhand. I loved this. I thought it was so cool. I thought it was such a great take on your typical dragon slaying fantasy. I've described it as being kind of like a genre bender between fantasy and psychological thriller, psychological horror almost. And I had a blast with it. The thing is, it's almost novella, if not actually falling into the novella categorization. And, oh man, when they're full price, this is $21 before tax. And I'm like, it's tiny. That's so much. So I got it secondhand and it was great. And it's one where if I don't end up liking the sequel, because at the time I'm filming this, the sequel's not out. If I don't end up liking the sequel, I don't even care because I thought the first one was so cool. I'm happy to have it just by itself. Next up, we have some arcs. So I'm going to start with the Doll Makers. This was something, so how I came to get this book, which actually looking at it, I don't even think it's the arc. I think this is the completed copy. So I'm really, really appreciative of that. And I was sent alongside it this amazing art print, which I love. And then also, I don't want to bend these, but these are so cool. They came with it as well. There's one of them. And then here is the next one. So these are really cool. And then there's some artwork on the inside. The author was nice enough to sign it, which is great. But I felt really bad because I got an email asking if I was interested in getting an arc for this. And then by the time I saw that email, it was way too late. And I was like, oh no. And if you've ever tried to contact me via email or anywhere, to be honest, I am terrible at getting back to people via email. I can't keep up with it, and I'm going to show you why. So here is my phone. There's my dog. Let's look at the number, shall we, of emails that I have. It's 13,784 as of today. There will be many more tomorrow, I'm sure. So I'm never caught up with emails. I never will be. I've just had to accept it. I miss things from people all the time. I always have my phone on Do Not Disturb because when I'm editing, I often get notifications because that's my regular phone. And then I also film on a phone. And so I get notifications all, and I'm like, I can't. So I have to turn notifications off of everything and to really be productive. This is going somewhere, I promise. The point is, I saw the email way too late and I was like, oh shoot. But my friend had just been telling me how amazing this book was, and the doll makers, I'll make that clear again. And I was like, gosh darn it. So I was like, hey, I know it's probably way too late, but if the offer still stands, I would love a copy. It sounds fantastic. And they were nice enough to be like, yeah. So they sent me a copy, which I'm so grateful for. I do plan to get to this as soon as possible, especially because I already was kind of late to the game in actually even getting back to the email. But I'm super appreciative of that, and I'm really looking forward to it. It sounds really interesting and definitely really innovative and different. Moving on, though, I also got sent a couple of other arcs. One of them would be A Rose by Any Other Name. I'm actually really excited because the audiobook service Libro FM had this as if you are in their like influencer program, which is not some fancy thing. It's like, do you review books? Well, then you can be a part of this. And what's nice is that it has a selection of books every month that you don't have to use credits on. You can just download those. And this was one of them. So I do have the audiobook for this. So this is another one that I'm hoping to get to as soon as possible. It's by, I believe, the same author who wrote the Book of Gothel, which was much more historical fantasy based. And I'm anticipating this is going to be as well. So as soon as I feel like I like historical fantasy for winter. So I think as soon as it starts getting cold, I'm going to try to pick this one up then. And I think it has to do with like Shakespeare. And yeah. So it says, if the mysterious dark lady of Shakespeare's sonnets were given a voice, what secrets would she tell? So we'll see what I end up thinking of that one. And then I also got sent These Deathless Shores. This is by Orbit. And Orbit is always fantastic about arcs and how they really try, I think, to make sure that their authors are as well represented as possible and that people have the books that they're representing on their radars, which I really appreciate. This one, I believe, is a dark Peter Pan retelling. It says, These Deathless Shores takes the wonder and violence of the original Peter Pan and magic dust-like spins something completely new, an intense, wild ride. So looking forward to that one as well. Not an arc, not secondhand. We have A Sorceress Comes to Call. I am hoping to have a review up for this either by the time this goes up or shortly after. But I pre-ordered this one because it's T. Kingfisher, and I'm like, pretty sure at the very least I'm going to enjoy it. And I loved it. This one is up there for me with Nettle and Bone, so that's super exciting. Kingfisher has so many books out, and of them, Nettle and Bone and A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking have maintained their position at my top spots for her works, and this one has kind of bumped itself up to that top realm as well. I loved this. I thought it was T. Kingfisher at her finest, in that it's creepy and scary, and it's a great blend of multiple different genres. In this instance, it's a good blend of fantasy and horror. Plus, it's funny. And I just feel like when she's firing on all cylinders, she's the best. I love her writing. I love her humor. And she does tend to tell really fantastic stories in a very short amount of time. I credit her with convincing me, is probably not the right way to put it, because it's not like I was opposed to. But I feel that her works were the first time I really felt like, oh my gosh, you can tell. It's kind of what I was talking about with Wraiths to Sands and fantasy standalones in general. I feel she opened my eyes to short fantasy stories, because I was one of those people that was like, how can you tell a good story in a short amount of time? And again, I didn't hold to that incredibly strongly where I was like, I resist. If it's under 500 pages, I'm not even going to try. I wasn't that serious about it, but I really did I would see short works and I'm like, I don't know. And she changed my mind. She's great. And now I'm over here like, do they need to be 1,000 pages? I am being a little bit dramatic. I definitely am of the mindset that however long a book needs to be, hopefully that is actually the amount of time that serves the story and actually tells the story the author wants to tell. I do think there's things behind the scenes sometimes where publishing wants to take certain amounts of words out to try to make it more marketable, or they want you to put more in depending on the target audience and other such things. So in general, if a story does not need to be super long and an author is like, no, this is what I have to this is all I need, great. If they want to add more and that's truly what they want, great. I'm just in support of authors having the freedom to choose. Last for today, we have some special editions that I have not even taken them out of their wrapping yet because I just hear my mother in my head being like, your grubby little fingers. And I'm just like, I don't want to get my books dirty. And that would be Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. These editions are so pretty. I do have the Grisha trilogy already in this style, and this would be the matching set for this duology. So the edges are incredible. I have seen online before I ordered them, I have seen all of the extra perks, and I maybe in the future will do a video where I showcase all of those extra perks with these because these editions are beautiful. I did do recently a special editions versus special editions video, and I had a lot of fun with that. I just love seeing the creativity that comes, like all the different creative artists that come together when making special editions, when you have these different artists that do character art, or they do the landscapes, or they do alternative sleeves or naked hardback covers, and the design that goes into that, and just seeing all these great amazing artists come together to make these special editions, I just think it's so cool. So I did do a special editions versus special editions, and perhaps in the future I'll have some more lined up for this duology, or at least things from the Grishaverse. But I got these, they're incredible. I will eventually take them out of the plastic. As I said, I just hear my mom, because I do have a weird, like, I'm pretty sure, where is it? If you look closely, you can like see fingerprints on my chair. I'm just always, I don't know how it happens, but I feel my fingers, I wash my hands. I'm not like digging in the dirt all the time or something. I just feel like I always have stuff on my hands. I want to blame Luna somehow, but it's not her fault. It's not her fault. I just have hair on her a lot from me, so that's her fault. But the having stuff on my hands, certainly one, isn't her fault. It doesn't make any sense. And two, I've had grubby fingers since I was a kid. And Luna wasn't around yet, so I don't know why my brain first went to her. But anyway, that's it for some books that I've gotten as of late. I'm really appreciative, as always, for any publisher that sends ARCs. And I appreciate it in part because it is quite expensive to buy books new all the time, and I do try to keep up with new fantasy releases. So I'm really grateful that publishers do help allow me to pick these books up, read these books, and then do new fantasy release wrap-ups, and hopefully those are informative and helpful to all of you so that you know what you want to put your hard-earned money toward. And then also, I'm really grateful to live in a place that has great local used bookstores and also access to apps like Pango, and I can get things secondhand. So just really appreciative to be able to get these books. I'm getting weirdly sappy, like I'm just really grateful for what I get to do as a profession, but I do really appreciate it, and I love books, so yay. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day. As I said at the beginning, I'll have my local bookstores information in the description bar down below. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.